Join us this week on Revenue Uncoded as we are joined by Kelvin Chaffer, CEO of Lifecycle Software based out of the UK. We'll be discussing mobility, online charging systems, MVNOs, MVNEs, new emerging technology in this space such as eSIMs. Interesting conversation this week. So join us on Revenue Uncoded. Welcome. All right. Welcome to another issue, another podcast of Revenue Uncoded. Coded. All right. That's what we do for our...
Brian, it's been a while since...
It has been.
How you been?
I've been good. How about yourself?
Excellent, man. Good spring. So today we have another element of the telecom stack. Today's topic is online charging systems, real-time charging, prepaid wallets, all of these sorts of things, right? Key elements of the mobile space. And with us, we have Kelvin from a sister company, Lifecycle. Kelvin, hello, and welcome to Revenue Uncoded.
How you doing, chaps? Great to be here.
Good to see, man. Good to see. Can you do us our audience a favor and just kind of give us a little bit of background about Lifecycle, just what it is they do, right? And then I would also love to know about your evolution, your history within the company, what roles you've provided. So tell us a little bit about what Lifecycle is and what they do.
Sure. Okay. So my name is Kelvin Chaffer. I'm the CEO at Lifecycle Software. Lifecycle have been around for the last 27 years. We started in billing primarily, landline.
We can relate.
And moving on to broadband.
Yeah.
The last 10 years or so, we've had a bigger focus on mobile. So we've evolved into the mobile and the MVNO space, supporting mobile operators with wholesale billing, and more recently MVNOs with like an MVNO and Ox type solution, offering all the BSS and customer self-care and all the other modules that allow MVNOs to succeed.
Cool. So
myself,
yeah,
I've been at Lifecycle for 24 years. I came in as a university placement originally.
Wow.
In the R&D department. And then I returned after I finished my university course. Worked in R&D, did a bit of BA, a bit of testing, moved up eventually to head up the R&D department. Got involved in sales a little bit, and tech support as well. And then last year, I got moved into the Chief Operating Officer role to look after professional services and managed services and our R&D still. And then this year, I got moved up to CEO. Yeah, so it's been quite a ride.
Congratulations, by the way. And we were talking briefly before the call, and I asked him, I said, man, be honest with me. Out of all the roles that you've provided, which one did you enjoy the most? And which one did you enjoy the most?
Always R&D, always being a creator, making stuff work, creating products and people happy by making stuff that lets their job be easier.
I love it. All right, so I'm gonna just bounce around. So OCS, right? And as a sales guy in the industry for longer than I can care to admit, my view of the OCS space is that you'll typically have a network provider that provides an OCS, like the big boys. I won't say their names, but the big network guys all seem to have an OCS. There are a few aftermarket OCS options out in the market, but it seems like there's only about half a dozen that have any real significant presence. Is that a wrong perception that it's a fairly finite pool of providers in the space?
I mean, there are quite a few different providers. You're right. I mean, most of the equipment makers have created their own OCS. The likes of Amdocs and OpenNet and Matrix and companies like that are also filling the space and doing so very well. I mean, we're competing with those guys. With our own OCS. And hopefully we've written it in a way that allows our customers to do something different in the market.
There you go. All right. So, and when you say something different, what do you think customers? All right. So, well, let me backtrack. In this OCS space, right? And so, again, lowest common denominator is it's necessary for things for real-time transactions, prepaid transactions, the element of policy software for what subscribers are entitled to me kind of encompass the core pieces of why, right? And it is a billing element, right? When I look at that space, it's what do you see that more and more customers, whether they be real-time operators or MVNOs, what have you kind of seen in terms of the evolution of real-time charging engines over the past, let's just say 5-10 years? What do you think's kind of evolved? Or is it all pretty much the same and we're just kind of doing better management of data, or is there new functionality? What's the evolution of the OCS space? Kind of a long-winded question there, but what have you seen in the past 5 years? Sorry.
At the moment, everyone's trying to move to the cloud, aren't they? So you get the likes of Totogi who built their system to be completely cloud native, and we're along those lines as well. I mean, we've tried to build out our systems to allow propositions and allowances to be managed at multiple levels through a hierarchy. So to support B2B and B2B to B2C, and allow the allowances for individual users or businesses to be managed and exchanged across the systems in an easy manner. We've built out lots of APIs to allow other systems to integrate into it, and give them the control to make changes and manage the customers in as real time a situation as possible.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Brian, what kind of thoughts do you have about OCS? What comes to your mind over the last 10 years that you and I have been working with OCS systems?
Well, one of the biggest things is the integration of all the steps within an OCS in the business stack. So between managing your product catalog to your balance management to your security to your privileges that you're allowed, how to manage the balance at a real time and allow top-offs or whatever your prepaid, postpaid models are that you want to sell, and have that be more of a standard integration practice as opposed to each one of the ones that we kind of talked to over the years has had a different approach to pieces of it, or they've had 80% of it done. They didn't have a product catalog for something that's supposed to come from over here, or so all the bits were not necessarily in alignment from an automatic charging system. So the implementation of that, and this is 10 years ago, was more, I think, problematic and involved to make sure you went left to right and you can go right to left across that whole OCS charging system with all those ancillary pieces properly set up and configured so you have a well-functioning OCS and billing system. It's not just the OCS. I mean, it's a player in the middle that's the brains of that piece, but all the other business pieces need to be integrated in as well. And so I've seen a better, like with the virtualization and going to cloud native, a more software lifecycle produced OCS environment than when it was virtual? 10 years ago. Yeah, well, more virtual. It's more standardized for certain things. You have a better option of being able to connect to it with some of your legacy equipment than you could a few years ago, because before it was like, no, that's not going to work. That was my first observation from 10 years to where it sits today. But I don't practice in the OCS business every day.
Kelvin, do you agree with that assessment by my colleague?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the software development practices have changed, haven't they, over the years? Once you've got the network integration, then you're able to update your OCS with new features and functions very quickly. If you're working with a network operator that will allow you to do that, but you've still got that challenge because ultimately a lot of telecoms companies are still quite legacy in their approach, and any change results in lots of cost, because they're not prepared to take that leap to a more sort of agile manifesto.
So the old trade-off of wing walking, we want cloud, we want native, we want Kubernetes and all that cool stuff, but we still have the legacy restrictions and the integration therein, continues, wherever we go, whatever topic we go. That's pretty consistent.
That is a song that continues to play at a screeching volume in our ears in the background on
Very
many,
true.
On many different engagements, just because of that the entrenched legacy equipment, the investment within that it's not necessarily easy to want to switch. And you're like, well, it works today. Can't we just use what we had? Well, yes and no.
Yeah. Cool. So let me shift in terms of the market, right? And so carrier OCS opportunities, MVNO carrier opportunities. So for the people who don't know, mobile
virtual
networking operating system, right? So, and in the United States, we've kind of got, three big players that all resell their networks. One of the big players has over 100 MVNOs on everything from we're all Navy captains, right? So that's an MVNO, right? I mean, I've seen little itty bitty ones. I've seen fairly large ones at large retail stores with like Walmart, et cetera. So there's really kind of three in the United States, and there are, if I was a guessing man, probably about 150 MVNOs in North America that do either a combination of resell the network, the big guy networks, or they're trying IP-based MVNOs, right? Yeah. So in Europe, is it a reasonably consistent model? Is it the same numbers, or is it just MVNOs are everywhere? Because we have a customer in Europe who is an MVNO, and what I've really watched them do is, for them, it's all about branding and, market segmentation and coming up with the new bundle quickly, and they do some pretty cool stuff. Tell me a little bit about your theaters. First of all, is your market predominantly Europe, or is it other markets that you work within?
So we're based primarily in the UK and in Europe. The market over here is similar to that. So we've got 4 main networks. Each of them typically has an enabler that allows them to onboard MVNOs. Some have done that more successfully than others. So we have some networks that have, one of them's got about 100 different MVNOs, but a lot of them are, as you said, they're very small players. People don't know about them unless they're actually on them. And then we've got other network operators in the UK that focus more on sort of bigger brands. Like some of the big supermarkets, Asda Mobile and stuff like that. We've also got sub-brands starting to appear more often. So
what do you mean by a sub-brand? I'm just curious. What do you mean by a sub-brand?
So it's basically where the network operator wants to do like a budget brand or a different, wants to work with a different niche. Offer something different, and when they do that, they effectively spin up an MVNO and use systems that basically augment their capability, I suppose.
Cool.
So a good example of that is Smarty in the UK, and they've managed to move away from some of the legacy, I suppose, of the network operator to be a lot more agile, and as you said, spin up packages and create new propositions very quickly to respond to whatever's happening on the market. And we support them.
So I don't know if there is a fair read of the market or not, but it seems like the proliferation of MVNOs, right, with hundreds of subunits and attachments, and they've all kind of got a standardized service provisioning gateway, or I can't remember what that thing is, that the core packet, EPC, right? So that you all kind of work into the EPC. But it seems like Europe and North America are really far and above on the MVNO side. I don't have as much history with the Asian market, but are you seeing in South America and in Africa and EMEA and in Asia, is the appetite for MVNOs consistent with the markets US and Europe, or is it not?
I'm not sure. I mean, some geographies won't. I mean, it's too expensive to enable the MVNOs.
Right.
But I mean, certainly in Europe, where there is a bit more bit more money, then that's less of a problem.
That makes sense. And it does consistent with, if I think about, I've got carriers that the ARPU exclusive of an MVNO is 10 to 20% of the ARPU in United States or in Europe, right? So that makes sense that just the margins wouldn't be able to support a proliferation of a lot of MVNOs. But so my next question is, aside from move to cloud and the technology and the continued integration challenges, are there any new pieces of functionality that you're being asked to provide from your customers?
I mean, there's been a big move to digitizing everything, hasn't there? I think COVID probably accelerated that, with everybody being stuck at home and not able to go out and buy SIMs. eSIM more recently. So there was an announcement yesterday about Like a Mobile in the UK moving to eSIM. We've got Apple releasing a new iPhone in October. Obviously in America, they're
quick sidebar.
Already eSIM, aren't they?
Quick sidebar. eSIM. Define that.
It's a virtual SIM.
Virtual SIM?
Yeah. So you
no longer. It's not in my mobile phone.
No, it's in your mobile phone, but it can change its signature digitally as opposed to physically changing a SIM card. So instead of having stacks of SIMs for this network or this customer or these people, what have you, you can do it virtually. So that kind of plays in line with, I bought my phone and I can hook it up to any network without having to go to the unlock and get my card pulled out, put the other card in, or et cetera. Mm-hmm. From my high level perspective on that, are you seeing that? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about that. As you mentioned, Kelvin, the Apple's getting ready to release that, and it seems to make a whole lot of sense from costs and efficiency standpoint. And as a consumer, I would much rather have that flexibility to be able to change the network of my device on my terms, as opposed to having my phone locked and having to go through. I don't know if it's the same way in Europe, but here you've got to go in. Your phone may be locked for 2 years on a contract. If you want to get out of it, you've got to go in and get it unlocked. Then you go to the other carrier, and if you do it in the wrong order, your phone gets disconnected and doesn't work for 2 days while you hassle through that. I just did that to help my dad out the other day, so I'm familiar.
You're
with
fresh.
Irritating that.
Scars are fresh.
The scars, I've still got. I hadn't even scabbed over yet. It's too soon, Bill. It's too soon.
All right.
But so those seem to be certainly from a technology standpoint a new push that's coming out pretty heavily. And how much is that going to impact the OCS engines now? When you've still got a database, you still know the SIMs, you still know the IDs, all that kind of stuff. Do you see that being a major hurdle in the back office side for the eSIMs, or fairly straightforward?
I mean, from a back office perspective, there's technologies that need to be integrated into your own stack to enable eSIM as part of your provisioning platform. I think it'll probably change the way people buy the packages and the propositions that are made available. It's becoming easier over the last couple of years, and at least to switch operators. It's like a real race to the bottom, I suppose. More data for less. And currently, as you said, when you change operators, you've got to you've got to get another SIM and put in your handset, and it's a bit of a pain. eSIM will stop that. And I think there'll be more of a sort of pick and mix approach. So you might get your voice and SMS from one provider, and then a big bundle of data from another. Similar with, I mean, you see eSIM talked about for like international travel as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, the cost of roaming is extortionate. If
it is extortionate. Extortion's a good word for it.
So there's a big bucket for eSIM there, where you're going abroad and you basically just buy the eSIM for the country that you're in, and then you're only paying the data costs for the mobile operator in that country.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Got a little break up there on the connection there, so hopefully that'll come through.
Well, his will be recorded fine. It's just a question of whether it was a total disconnect.
Oh,
there he is.
There he is. There's Kelvin. Good to have you back. All right, so eSIM is a big element, right? That's kind of changing the real-time charging element.
And how you market, how you sell it, how you can purchase services. I think that's what Kelvin was just bringing out. That's kind of the game changer piece, because now I can buy voice services here or data services here or a mobile roaming here a little differently than you do it today. So your billing systems and things will need to be able to handle those.
Segment all of those feeds.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So you've got segmentation issues, more data analysis to make sure that everybody's kind of parsed out to get
every session,
their piece of the pie.
Whatever you're using that device for, you need to know the who, what, where, when, and why, and who's going to pay for it, or potentially, or what bundle it's with, et cetera, which is a little different than the way today you're kind of all on one network. And the roaming, I guess international roaming would be that example of not doing it that way when you go and buy that package, or a international SIM when you go out. There's a couple of different ways to do that. That eSIM will make that so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
How it comes out on the business side of that, there's some interesting ways to slice and dice your device's capabilities now when you have that eSIM.
So, I mean, I think we'll also see. I mean, we talked about the OCS. I think currently, when you're buying a proposition, it's like for a month, isn't it? You get a month to use your allowance.
Yeah.
I think that'll be much shorter. I think you'll be able to buy like a bundle that will last a day or a few hours, and that's where the sort of pick and mix element will come in. You'll literally buy what you want when you need it. Like you are seeing on the international travel.
So the old days of line number portability and a lot of
this is more like SIM portability.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the line's in the SIM already, the data and all that. So now, if you want to go on to another network, it'll be interesting. And I don't have any information on it. Maybe you do, Kelvin, on roaming agreements in the eSIM world versus international roaming agreements.
Wouldn't that be done through all the cyber exchange?
You would think so.
Clearing exchanges? The options out there?
I don't know. That's what I'm asking.
All right, there we go. Yeah. Let's ask him.
I honestly don't know. I know that's
quite, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah. We're going to put that one for Jeff.
Yeah.
That'll be one for Jeff.
Tell Jeff to have that ready for us.
We're going to grill him on that.
We're going to grill him on that.
We're going to grill him on the cyber clearing exchange challenges and how well those work out. But in the end consumer we're putting more choice to the end consumer. And, they are kind of picking their own bundles, right? And it sounds like they can even kind of pick their own carrier elements based on what we just kind of heard.
Eventually, I would think so.
So more and more choice, right? Which means the carrier's ability to kind of maintain longevity of contracts, long-term contracts, becomes greater risk, right? If I provide that consumer with greater elements of choice, it's probably harder to keep that guy.
Well, yes? wouldn't that imply that you need, as a service provider, to be more nimble and agile and provide those services on that quick, bringing up those new offerings and things that Kelvin was just talking about quickly, so that you can capture different pieces of the market and respond quickly, as opposed to, it's not like, here where I've had the same phone and service for 12 years and they're trying to kick me off the network because my phone's too old, kind of thing, versus somebody says, hey, this week somebody's offering me this, I can switch, I can do this, I can, so that means you would need as that entire provisioning and the offerings and the product bundles, that has to be very dynamic and deployed very quickly when people are making these changes. So that means, and you have this is coming between different operators. You're moving from one carrier to another. Today, it's, at least in the U.S., it's a fairly slow proposition to do that. It's you got, if you can get it done in a 10-hour day, you're doing pretty well here. A lot of them, there's usually something that pops up that kind of slows it down.
The old rainy day, sunny day, cloudy day.
So policy, enforcement, balance management, all of these different pieces that come in with these new products all have to work as soon as you cut somebody over via eSIM change. So the engines seem like they're all ready to do that. I don't know as far as the integration with the rest of the BSS stack is really quite there yet. I don't know if you've had any experience yet with that sort of integration path from your provisioning sides and things from the BSS side, not the network side of this, because at some point somebody's got to type this stuff in or not type it in. Is it all going to be virtually do it on my phone? My app lets me switch. I haven't done it with an eSIM, but it seems like it could all be done digitally from your handset. Does that, am I on base there, or does that, am I just,
so that's one of the things that needs to happen. I mean, we've done the integrations with the eSIM providers. Some handsets are on the iPhone. If you've got an app, if you've got a mobile app, a self-care app, it's literally just a case of clicking a button and it will install the eSIM for you. On some of the other devices, then they send you like a QR code, which is a little bit clunky at the moment. So you'll buy your package online, you'll get sent a QR code in an email, and then you have to scan the QR code to actually do the process, which sounds okay, but when you've got your mobile,
I love this phrase.
Mobile, it makes it very difficult to scan something that's already on your mobile.
I love his phrase. It's a bit clunky at the moment.
I mean, it's progressing.
Yeah. A bit clunky. Yeah, I love it. Good deal. So it sounds like that's another element that you guys are being asked to kind of integrate and kind of bake into the overall solution.
Yeah,
cool.
We certainly are.
All right, cool.
I mean, and going back to the proposition piece, I mean, that's where MVNOs are able to succeed, isn't it? Yeah. They have that agility. They have the ability to create new propositions or new promotions quickly to respond to whatever's happening on the market. So if they see a competitor that's come out with a new deal at £5 for 50 gigabytes, they can respond that quickly and make sure that they're capturing the same sort of people.
I got two other quick random thoughts. So in the States, there's a process for an MVNO to integrate to a big carrier, and my information is a bit dated, but it would be a cost, and usually about 6 to 8 weeks to provide an integration to the carrier. Is that reasonably consistent still in terms of integration and testing to that carrier for the OCS?
It depends really if there's already an enabler or an enablement platform. If you do the integration directly, then it can take a couple of months because of lots of hoops and testing that need to be jumped through. Once you've got an enablement platform, then setting up an MVNO can be very quick.
Got it. And then the next area is I want to bounce over to data analytics. Right. So when we were talking briefly before, you guys grew up as data geeks, right? Data analytics geeks. And so Brian is also a data analytics geek. So when you think about, what are the big pieces of information? What are the intelligence requests that you're being asked to provide from a data analysis perspective for your customers? What do they really want? What's the most important stuff?
What do they really want? I don't think they really know what they want. And they install solely.
Spot on.
Boom.
It's an evolving set of metrics now because there's so much more data than there was just 5 years ago. The volumes that are coming out. So the real trick is to figure out what's the sugar water within this stream we've got here versus the muddy water. There's so much stuff. I want to get to the good bits. And I may not even know what the good bits are right at this moment. So you need to be able to have that big data, that ability to look at that information to pull it out. Because we get requests for data dives on a regular basis for who's on the network, where did this come from? Let's check our SBC. Let's look at this. What do we get? How many people are using this platform here for this? Because it's becoming so service node oriented on delivery of services that this stuff's happening all over the place, and they all have different signatures or life cycles to the sessions, and they're integrated into the session streams on your devices. So, and that's just the stuff that we've been looking at. People do this in multiple different ways, and the views are ever evolving. Bill, ever evolving is what I'm going to claim.
I mean, the more information that you've got, the more you can tell about your customer, right? I mean, we're capturing the calls that are being made. We can tell when they're logging into their application. We can see what their location is when they're making the call, or where they are when they're using the app. We can see what pages they're looking at, what they're clicking. All this information can then be used to look at what campaigns you might want to try and upsell to them, or whether they might be a risk of churn because they've stopped doing something that they were doing previously. Again, there is so much data there, and if you've got the right mindset, you can do the right level of digging to look at opportunity to help both your customer and your own bankroll, I suppose.
All right, so I'm going to keep bouncing around. One of the other consistent topics that we've had on a lot of our shows is artificial intelligence. Is AI part of your space yet? Or is it kind of maybe being evaluated?
So, I mean, AI, we do lots of automation and use AI to help identify churn. I mean, there's been a lot of talk recently about ChatGPT and how that can potentially be used. And we're certainly using it to help with some of the development practice, as well as knowledge sharing of industry sort of items. Another thing that we've seen being used with ChatGPT, I suppose, is ticket management or customer ticket management. So they're raising a ticket request. The agent can use ChatGPT in some ways to help answer the question, and answer the question in the right tone of the company that they're working for. So yeah, I mean that's what we've been seeing from the other AI perspective. Again, churn and propensity to churn, and sort of upsell potential, I suppose. So seeing what a customer's doing, where they're calling or where they're failing to call, and running campaigns off the back of that to try and sell them and add on to enable them to call a country that they were previously unable to call.
There's another piece with that as well, with the AI portion. We discussed the whole contact center and CRM centers using, as Kelvin was bringing out, the better processing of information so that when your CRM person or technician or whatever is interfacing with a customer, they have a tailored response back that has taken into account all that data, all those data pieces. If somebody, let's talk about the network side for a minute. So like on not the mobile so much, but on the cable's a good example of that, where there's areas on your network that are oversaturated or having poor performance or what have you. That can help drive your work order tickets to be proactive to fix problems before you get to the CRM issue with the complaints. So once again, that's just another one of those flavors of the network is still doing what it does. The processes are the same, but how you consume the data and make sense of it, that view of it, those seem to be major evolving steps that are, I think we'll see some dramatic changes over the next 5-6 years with that, just because what you can do with this now without having to have a team of data analysts going through it gives you some leverage and a leg up on some of those things. And then the other item is what's going to happen with privacy issues with all this information and the customer stuff. You've got in the U.S., we've got a lot of crazy privacy rules, especially in the data and the telecom business. So you have to keep that in mind as well, because just because you can do it doesn't mean you should, or you can get away where you're going to get fined or something else. So that's another thing for people to be aware of, that sure, look at all this info we have, but I don't want to go to jail for that. Yeah. That's just me.
I mean, the UK and Europe, we've got GDPR. So if you're using customers' information, they've got to have agreed to it.
Yes. Yep.
And same with the upselling of upselling and marketing messages. They need to have signed up and agreed that they want to receive and have their data used to do that.
All right. So let me ask you another question. With your history and your experience of looking at the market and being at one company and R&D and all the hats, when somebody wants to go look for an OCS, right, aside from company's strength and price, whatever, what are you really, what's your message to those people when they're evaluating OCSs, when they're looking at OCSs? What should they be looking for? What should they be peeling back on the layers of the onion? Is it the policy? Is it the catalog? Is it the ability to integrate? What are the real key elements that you would advise a buyer to be looking for?
I mean, the OCS is there for real-time call management. It's there to stop revenue leakage. I mean, we've worked with the OCS and receiving CDRs latently, where again the customer can go into huge amounts of bill shock because they've been able to call premium lines and foreign countries where they weren't aware that it was going to cost them £5 a minute. And the OCS will stop that from happening. I mean, for us, we're looking at speed of delivery and getting it up and running quickly, and allowing our customers to manage the propositions and plans that they're going to allocate or make available to their customers through our systems. We've got a big suite of APIs that allow them to plug in their own pieces as well and manage their own bits alongside ours. And we've got lots of different scenarios and events that we can trigger to give our partners the most useful information available to provide the best service possible. I mean, one of the things that we've been doing is looking at failed calls. So calls where the customer's not been able to make a call because they haven't got to the right package or the right balance, and using that information to send a message to the customer to say, if you do want to call America, then you need to do X or Y. And that's been really successful in helping our partners to increase their own revenues.
Cool.
That's brilliant, because that is a frustrating thing, which as a consumer, when you want to do something and you're not exactly sure what to do. You can use your phone to call, but am I going to get bill shock? Am I going to actually not be able to I can't physically dial the correct pattern on my phone to get to where I want to go, or it's blocked because I don't have a package to let me do that at this point. So that's as a consumer, I would certainly love to have that level of information put at my fingertips on my device, so I can do what I want to do with it, and in a straightforward, simple way to buy the service I want to use. Take my money. Take it now. Please take it. There you go.
I mean, the other thing is around convergence and being able to manage quad play and dual play and triple play and other pieces alongside your actual mobile piece.
Yep. Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, I would ask from Kelvin, we've kind of touched on a number of little things. Is there anything that you would like to bring out that you see as a major player in, now, or you think is kind of forward-looking that people would want to be preparing for, be aware of disruptors, or the other one is the fake, clean, safe road that's actually got a giant pothole in it, and you got to be aware of the fact that you need to be looking all the way down the road. It's not just the end goal, because there's some bumps you've got to navigate through to successfully get to the destination. So anything you've got there, if you don't have anything, that's fine too.
We spoke about eSIM already and how that might disrupt the market by, again, allowing this sort of pick and mix approach. I'm really interested in seeing what's going to happen with 5G properly, and the use cases that end up needing or end up being supported by that. I mean, at the moment, it's just quicker data, and that no one's really using it as effectively as it could be. It's allowing more devices and to attach to the network and stuff like that, but no one's really seeing any big advantages off the 5G piece at the moment.
No, that's kind of that's blasphemy. Well, you realize that.
Again,
I mean, you
looking at the use cases available. I want to see something out of both of those.
Well, I mean, on the whole topic of 5G, it's interesting that you share the same opinion that I have. Is that, hey, look, there's always going to be the next network. There's always going to be the next evolution, and there's when we kind of looked at 5G on our side is the inherent incremental revenue, charging more just for a faster speed wasn't necessarily there. The real value was in the data of the consumer that was on the 5G, at least in the early stages. But the ability to really drive a lot of incremental ARPU through 5G, I'm still a bit unsold, right? On is there an inherent real value with the investment on 5G? And the reason why I have some element on that is that we had a group of smaller network owners in the United States approach us and start talking about a consortium back office specific for 5G, because the cost was prohibitive to do it on their own, and they wanted to kind of have a shared resource. So, so how 5G is an element, ongoing element. It sounds like you kind of seeing the same things in your market.
Definitely. The other thing that in theory is going to happen over the next couple of years is wearables, and people are talking about augmented reality and glasses and stuff like that. I don't know if 5G will help advance that a bit quicker with the AR and VR piece. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes to. There's lots of interesting talk about the possibilities, but we need to see it in action. And I think we talked about eSIM. I think Apple are meant to be releasing a device later in the year around their version of Google Glasses, I suppose.
Oh yeah. No, it's coming, and you need more throughput, so you need the next generation network. Yada yada. Again, network is always king.
With pipe.
Yeah, there you go. So I am. If I kind of summarize some things I've heard is that there's a big push on the technology side to go cloud, right? There's continued focus on integration, always going to be there. There's the challenge of transitioning from legacy stacks and environments over to these environments that all have to be there. In terms of innovation and what's kind of coming down the line, more granularity required, right? Converged network options, right? In terms of solutions, more self-service for the consumer to kind of pick and choose his network, and through the eSIM.
Tailored self-care options for people, because some people don't want options.
Very true.
They want the hit. the one easy button.
With the easy button.
Done.
Yeah.
And I'm done. Don't give me 2 options is too many. That's one too many.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree.
And I love Kelvin's comment when I asked about, well, what are they really looking for? What do they really want out of the data? And then, they both go, well, they don't always know yet, right? You kind of have to help paint the picture of what is possible from all of these data feeds, and then they start connecting the dots and say, well, I want some of this and some of that and less of that, right?
And it may change. I mean, one week it may be, you can sell a bundle to the World Cup, well, that doesn't happen all the time. Mm-hmm. So, then you got something else that comes up. There's a musical fest that's taking place somewhere. I can set up a bundle and sell it. Mm-hmm. And those are event-driven things. Mm-hmm. So you need to know the calendar, and you need to know who's going to be interested in buying that. Who would you market that to on your network?
Mm-hmm. Good point.
It's all about helping your customer understand the art of the possible. I mean, we've got lots of reports that are pretty standard. How many sales, how much churn, how much money's being taken, how much revenue's being made. Mm-hmm. But to really sort of give your customers proper benefit, then there's a whole lot more information that they can abstract from the data that is actually available to them.
Yeah. Cool. Any parting words, Kelvin, that you'd like to kind of convey?
I don't think so. Thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure talking to you both.
Well, vice versa.
Thank you,
Kelvin
so much,
from Lifecycle. Thank you very much for joining. Brian, I think that's all we've got. Unless you got anything else you want to add?
No, but that was great.
Kelvin, last thing. Where can our listeners go to learn more about Lifecycle?
So you can catch us on LinkedIn, just search for Lifecycle Software, or on the website, www.lifecycle-software.com.
Perfect, man. Yeah. All right, man.
Great.
Well, thanks again for joining in from England. I know it's dinner time over there. I hope you're going to go to a pub and enjoy a nice big pint on Friday afternoon. But thank you again for joining.
Thanks,
Brian,
Kelvin.
I don't think we've got anything else, man.
No, so that's the end of this episode of
Revenue Uncoded. Coded. Thanks again, man. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks, Kelvin.